In many Western historical accounts, the name Genghis Khan is primarily linked to a single data point, a death toll of roughly 40 million people. When his forces reached the Iranian city of Nishapur, the objective was total erasure. To ensure no one would ever survive to seek revenge, his soldiers constructed pyramids from the victims' skulls and were ordered to kill every living thing inside the walls, including cats and dogs. This chart tracks the atmospheric impact of that violence. Removing tens of millions of people scrubbed nearly 700 million tons of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. As cities depopulated and agricultural zones emptied, forests aggressively reclaimed abandoned land, functioning as a massive carbon sink. This history of slaughter creates a jarring contrast with modern Mongolia, where he is worshipped as the father of the nation. Across the country, massive monuments like this silver equestrian statue depict him as a heroic, foundational figure. If you look at these banknotes, you'll see his portrait is integrated into the daily commerce of the country across almost every denomination. A conqueror who builds an empire twice the size of Alexander the Great's requires more than just a capacity for violence. To understand how a man named Temujin achieved this, we must look past the body count and examine his specific strategies for social and military organization. According to the secret history of the Mongols, Temujin was born in the mid-12th century, clutching a solidified blood clot, a traditional Mongolian sign that the child would eventually become a powerful leader. His childhood was defined by survival rather than power. After his father was poisoned, his family was cast out by their tribe to starve on the steppe. The scarcity was so extreme that at 14, Temujin killed his own brother over a dispute involving a captured fish. Because he was born without a noble lineage or a supporting tribe, Temujin could not rely on traditional Mongol bloodlines to build an army. He was forced to recruit based on performance, offering advancement to any soldier who showed skill and loyalty, regardless of their family background. The depth of this commitment was tested in 1201 when an enemy archer shot Temujin's horse out from under him, nearly ending his life. After the victory, the archer admitted to the shot. Instead of executing him, Temujin recruited the man into his personal guard, naming him Jebe, which translates to the arrow. Jebe eventually rose through the ranks to become one of the empire's primary generals. These recruits were drawn from a population that began military training at the age of 3, learning to ride and shoot with high precision from the back of a moving horse. By combining these lifelong skills with a strict hierarchy based on talent rather than birthright, Temujin transformed a collection of rival outcasts into a coordinated and highly responsive military force. Outside of direct combat, Temujin utilized a strategy historians call daughter diplomacy to secure his borders. He forced the kings of neighboring territories to marry his daughters, then assigned his new sons-in-law to the front lines, where most were killed. This allowed his daughters to inherit the thrones, creating a protective ring of allied states. His methods of pacifying captured enemies were equally structured. After defeating a rival tribe, he often ordered every male measured against the linchpin of a wagon wheel. Anyone taller than the 3-foot axle was executed to eliminate the possibility of a future uprising. Conversely, his domestic policies were remarkably tolerant for the 13th century, including a mandate for absolute religious freedom across all conquered lands. This was a pragmatic calculation. Temujin realized that subjects who were allowed to maintain their spiritual traditions were statistically less likely to form the cohesive resistance groups necessary for a successful rebellion. While he used targeted violence to gain territory, he maintained it through these specific social and diplomatic policies, creating a stable administrative structure out of a chaotic conquest. As he approached death, Temujin became focused on his own erasure, issuing a command that no physical trace of his life be left for posterity. He forbade the creation of contemporary portraits, refused to allow monuments in his likeness, and was buried in a secret location that remains lost to history 8 centuries later. This lack of a physical record allowed the Soviet Union to attempt to scrub him from history during the 20th century. To undermine Mongolian identity, Soviet authorities removed his name from textbooks and restricted access to his birthplace. Much of what we know about his specific rise to power survived only through the accidental preservation of the secret history of the Mongols, a text that was lost for hundreds of years before a single copy was found in China. While his physical remains and much of his written history disappeared, his biological legacy is measurable in the global population today. Genetic studies indicate that roughly 16 million men alive today, about 1 in every 200 males on Earth, carry a Y chromosome that traces directly back to him. Compare this to Alexander the Great. Alexander inherited a professional army, a stable kingdom, and received an elite education from the philosopher Aristotle. Alexander's empire collapsed within months of his death. In contrast, Temujin, who began as a starving outcast with no resources, built a geopolitical structure that remained intact and continued to expand for 141 years after he was gone.